Hello there, and welcome to the Untitled Film Podcast with Callum and Johnny. I'm Johnny.
And I'm Callum.
And this week's episode is a remote episode due to the unfortunate circumstances of me having some horrible allergy.
Quite probably the COVID.
But I am mustering through.
He's a brave soldier.
Many days of bed rest have watched a couple of movies to do this. I've watched quite a lot of movies, but I've watched a couple in particular for this podcast. So we're going to go for it. If I am quieter with more coffee than normal, that's why. But Callum, if people want to see my progress on my health, they probably won't, because we probably won't post anything about it on
probably not
socials.
No.
But if we were to do such a thing, where would you be able to find it?
If we were to post about Johnny's ill health and his bedridden state, you would just go to Instagram or Facebook and type in Untitled Film Podcast, all one word, and there you would see a man dying and begging for attention.
If you wanted to pay a man-child with a large IQ but a small penis $8 a month to have a blue tick next to your name, where would you go to find that?
Well, you'd go to myspace.com and you'd find us there somewhere. I don't know. Oh, you mean Twitter?
I do mean Twitter.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Who cares?
As we've said in previous episodes, we do have a Twitter. It just never gets used.
And I can't even remember the title.
No, they wouldn't let us have a long enough one.
They wouldn't allow us Untitled Film Podcast or something like that. And I think Untitled Film Pod was taken, I think. And so I had to kind of go for a really not good name as the backup, and it was bad. It was sort of stilted from the beginning, and sort of glad now, given what's happened, sort of glad that Twitter is being flushed down the toilet.
Well, kind of that happened not long after we got the Twitter, so I think we just were like, nah, not for us.
Some could say we may have been the cause.
Some could say, indeed.
Be inaccurate, but they could say that. I want that rumour started.
According to Elon, Twitter's the busiest it's ever been.
Whoa. Yeah.
It's halved in value, but it's the busiest it's ever been.
And he's got these major plans to turn it into like tenfold. We're going to get those people back.
I believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to go the way of MySpace and Bebo at this rate.
I think you're right.
I think the problem is as well, it's now just full of, it's either businesses who don't really say a lot, or it's really, really right-wing people, or really, really left-wing people, and anyone sensible on there just gets shouted at from both sides. So it's just like, it's just a noisy mess.
And even if it wasn't owned by Elon, it was kind of headed that way anyway, because it's only elder millennials and sad old boomers on there now.
I think the problem is he's fucked up the algorithms even worse, though, isn't he? But
he certainly sped it up. Hey ho, we're not here to talk about Twitter.
No, let's talk about some films.
Some lovely, lovely films.
And I think that brings us very neatly to the news.
It's news time with Callum and Johnny. Do.
I still have the power to mute you, I think.
It's better than the last one, at least.
Actually, I think I can mute you even better. Completely muted. Bliss. I think you have to turn your own microphone back on. I can't do it. I'm just watching silence right now. No, on the screen. On the screen.
Yep, that's it. Yeah. It's the joys of remote working. Yeah, because I can't shout at you across the room like when you turn my microphone off before. I could just yell at you, and it will still get picked up a bit.
I don't think it. Yeah, but it doesn't now, does it?
No, not now. No, not here. Pure silence.
Bliss. Someone say. Anyway, I'm going for the first piece of news this week because last week you snaked mine. So I think this week I might snake one of yours.
I think you might.
So, where's this Anderson?
Oh no.
Oh. I've got a couple of others.
Well, that's true.
Snake yours later on, but we'll find out. Wes Anderson has finally released a trailer, and I don't think there was a title before, and also a massive cast list for his new movie. I think I'm right in saying they were filming this in Spain at some point in the not too distant future. I remember hearing about them doing it, but it is not set in Spain. It's set in America, back on homeland after quite a long time traveling around the world. He has released a movie called is releasing a movie called Asteroid City. Have you seen this, Callum?
I have. It looks really fun. It has a very postcard look.
It does. So it's kind of that, I would say, 50s, I want to say 50s kind of Americana vibe. Like you say, that kind of those classic postcards you'd get of like Atlanta or Idaho or whatever.
It's just nice to see something obviously shot on film.
Yeah, the trailer's got even says like Kodak in big writing.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It's shot on, I think, like it's not Kodachrome because that's a photography film, but yeah, it's shot on a kind of.
It also
really
seems that Bill Murray is playing. No, sorry, Tom Hanks is playing
Bill Murray.
Playing Bill Murray.
I thought that
whatever character Bill Murray was going to play.
Yeah, I kind of thought that, which will be interesting to see. Unfortunately, obviously, Bill Murray's a little bit persona. I say unfortunately, deserved it, but a bit persona non grata now in the film industry. So I suspect that was why that decision came in. And old Uncle Hank, like he swept in to save the day. But no, it's about a small town, Asteroid City. It's a bit kind of what's the Area 51? What's the town near there?
Roswell, Nevada. Yeah,
no, New Mexico.
New Mexico. Sorry.
Although I think Area 51's Nevada. Anyway, it's that kind of vibe. Those kind of places, little kind of out of town places where people like to talk about aliens and have like in the side of the road motels and things that are all alien themed and little gift shops and stuff. But it's that kind of place in the 50s. But actually aliens turn up, and I think the government stop everyone leaving and keep them there. And there's a famous film actress, there's a family, there's got some shit going on, and a whole cast of other wacky people. It's got all of the people you'd normally expect in Wes Anderson films, apart from Bill Murray, as well as some other interesting people. I think Fisher Stevens is in it now as well.
Oh, that's cool. I like him.
Bryan Cranston. He's a good get. ScarJo.
It's nice to see Jason Schwartzman playing his first leading role in a Wes Anderson film in something, ages. I think maybe Rushmore, because I think maybe Rushmore was the last time he played a leading man, because he'd always been a supporting guy in his other movies.
Yep. Jeffrey Wright's back as well after being in a couple of his movies.
Nice.
And then you're kind of into the standard fare. You've got Tilda Swinton, Edward Norton, Adrian Brody, Margot Robbie's a new one. Margot Robbie, Will Dafoe, Steve Carell. Oh, Steve Carell's another new one. There's big names in this. Stephen Park, Liev Schreiber, Rupert Friend, Matt Dillon, Hong Chow, Jeff Goldblum, Jake Ryan.
Just full of people we like.
Really.
Yeah, we like all these people.
Jarvis Cocker's back. It's not, I don't think, the only piece of Wes Anderson news. I think the other piece of Wes Anderson news is that he is doing a animated film or series for Netflix too. So
nice.
It's been quite a
busy
Wes
boy.
Anderson-filled week, yeah. I think this has been in production for quite a while. I think one thing I said, it's only going to, so it said something along the lines of it's only going to be a year or so between two Wes Anderson films. That's unusual. But I think what everyone forgets is that the French Dispatch was meant to come out in 2020 and then
yes, of
got
course,
delayed by like 18
of
months or so. So I think it's kind of the normal gap. But he does sometimes do this where we'll have an animated film on the go while doing a live action as well. So, but no, for fans of Wes like me, this looks to be an interesting year.
Very, very interesting. And to bring us back around to Margot Robbie, the new trailer for Barbie has just dropped, co-written by Noah Baumbach, which is another Wes Anderson regular, and his ex-wife Greta Gerwig is writing and directing. It's looking more like the Lego movie and less like the Emoji movie, because you never know where one can go with these product movies. This is it's very played ironically, and pretty much every person I follow, film Twitter and film Instagram, and all my film friends are going absolutely bananas over this. It looks very funny.
I kind of think when I saw the first trailer and saw those photos, I was like, what are they doing? What are they trying to get out of this? I don't quite understand where they're going with it. And then having seen this second one, it does.
The
look
tone
good.
seems
The tone seems funny.
Yeah,
it seems ridiculous.
The Beach Boys in the trailer was a very good use of music there. It looks like Will Ferrell might be playing a similar-ish part to
as
what
he was in the Lego
movie.
Yeah, I thought that as well.
So
looks like he's like a Mattel executive.
You can see there's a lot of sort of fans of that kind of storytelling. Greta Gerwig is very smart, very good writer, director, and Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling. And again, talking about another massive cast, they also released all the character posters. And I think everybody who's popular right now is in this movie. And some people who
at the end of the trailer as well, it just goes like boom, 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 boom,
yeah,
boom, 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 boom.
And even some people had no idea about like Michael Cera and America Ferrera.
Michael Cera's the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's playing like that doll that you can get that's neither Ken nor Barbie. He's sort of like the sad, also ran guy, the guy that's sort of like that you'd give the little sister who you got the knockoff toys. I think because his poster says he's just this guy, and he's the only one who's not a Ken or a Barbie or a real person. So that looks fun. And I like how everybody is Ken or Barbie, and they're all just different forms of Ken or Barbie.
This was my second piece of news, but it's not a major issue because I actually came prepared.
Oh, cool.
It was. I came prepared with some extra ones because I thought we may fall upon the same pieces of news. Which one should I do? I've got two quite small ones.
Okay.
Let's do the new Spider-Man trailer.
Ah, shit.
So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
Across the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man movies have the most confusing names these days because they try and be the same. But they try and be the same, but they aren't the same, if that makes sense. Like they try and like go with such a similar theme and change like one word, and it's really annoying.
Like the home theme.
Yeah, exactly. Homecoming, home.
That actually leads to the one thing in this trailer that I didn't like.
Okay.
But I'll let you explain it first.
But yeah, anyway, the new trailer's out. It looks very good. Starts to actually give us a bit of a story because the other ones just were like bits of footage that look cool. Kind of you see some of the storyline starting to come out, and it looks excellent. I think is the only way really to describe it.
Yes.
The only thing I would say is, and again, I might be massively wrong, the thing that I think they're trying to set up as the big bad, I don't know if that's strong enough. But anyway, we'll see. It might not be. It might just be a red herring at this point. Anyway,
the one character played by Oscar Isaac, you mean?
No.
Or maybe there was something I missed then in the carnage of the trailer. But maybe I'll just leave that to...
I mean, I think he's the one that everyone assumes is the big bad.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The way that I think the story will obviously going by one of the other characters and their negative attitude of the trailer.
Oh, I see. Yes, no, I think I do. Yeah, okay.
And this is the Cryptic Podcast. Anyway, I say, what was it you didn't like in the trailer?
I didn't like that they referenced the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I'm kind of tired. I've got to the point where I want that to fuck off. There is one joke where they go, "Oh, not to mention what that Doctor Strange and that Spider-Man from Universe blah 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 got up to," and like
2099, yeah,
no, don't leave it alone. I don't want to hear anything more about this grey flat.
I think
mushy universe. Leave it. Let it die now. I'm tired of the MCU.
I think he'll appear in it personally, but that's for the birds.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm pretty sure now.
Hopefully, it's minimal because I'm tired of the MCU and the grey, beige, boring cinema. I think it would be okay if they made some okay movies. You could say, okay, well, slightly mushy cinematography, bland, all that rest of it, but it has been a bit shit.
Well, I think that's it. I think before they're very bland looking movies. I've never liked them. I've never, from that point of view, I've never liked the fight scenes. You occasionally get someone like my brain's on today. What's his name? The Thor: Love and Thunder and
stuff. Like Taika
Waititi or James Gunn who give it a little bit of a more interesting flair, but they're all shot in. It's a bit akin to how all Netflix things look the same in the same color palette, and that bugs the shit out of me. I'm like, let cinematographers be cinematographers. That one makes me interested in things. And like Fox, anything shot on Fox looks the same, like really flat coloring and stuff. But anyway, that's another rant.
Yes, it is. It's another thing, and I'm sure we'll talk about a Marvel movie, or maybe Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just around the corner. So
yeah, true. Because I'm struggling to watch them at the minute. They are bland.
Yeah, I tried to watch.
No, the thing is, they used to have good storylines that I was invested in, and then they finished the Infinity Saga, and then they just haven't really. TV side of things is a bit more interesting, but on the film side of things, they haven't done anything.
With everything going on with Jonathan Majors, the Kang Odyssey looks a bit in trouble at the moment.
Yeah, we shall see. Although DC doesn't look much better because some of their new trailers look fucking dire.
Blue Beetle looked pretty awful.
Really does. But they just need to. I thought what they need to do is just pause, apart from Into the Spider, whatever the Spider-Verse this one is. They just need to pause making superhero movies for like 3 or 4 years and just let like all the writers catch up and spend some time writing some really good scripts. Maybe get some new cinematographers in.
Well, we're in an interesting stage because it used to be a guarantee these films would make money. Now they still do sometimes. But then there are ones that don't, and it's shown the chinks in the armor. And now that that's kind of been shown, it might be at a place kind of just at the top of the decline. Like when Westerns, you'd still get a big hit Western like True Grit in the early 60s. But then the decline kind of showed that they weren't a guaranteed hit. You'd have to really pull out all the stops to make it a hit. So we could be in that place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit. I suppose if it gets to the point like Star Wars did, where they don't have enough momentum behind it to bother doing it, then they might
get to that place. But who knows?
Anywho, as I swooped in and stole your second piece of news this week.
Yes, you did.
Do you have a second piece?
I didn't have one stored, so that's it, I guess.
Well, we've done quite a long news segment this week, so we'll move on to the main event.
Should I set up the 2 films?
Go for it.
Okay, so the new film we have just released on Apple TV Plus. We've got Tetris, starring Taron Egerton. Is it Egerton or Edgerton?
I think it's Egerton.
Okay, let's go for Egerton.
Never 100%.
And for the slightly older film, we've gone for The Social Network, with the theme being that they're, tech-related stories about the sort of behind the scenes, the boardroom bickering, the rights arguments about 2 eventual tech giants in their early stages.
And they're quite interesting that they both kind of echo a similar story, but they come at it in very different ways.
Very different ways.
To talk about
tonally, very, very different.
Absolutely. Do you want to take on Tetris? Tell us about Tetris.
Yes, sure. So Tetris is the story of Henk Rogers, who is not the creator of Tetris, but when he is at the Las Vegas video game and tech show, and he's trying to promote a game of his that just isn't going. He lives in Japan. He's a Dutch American who lives in Japan. He is the head of a video game studio. He keeps trying to peddle these games. He has a sort of wheeler dealer Del Boy-esque quality about him. No one's buying, and then he comes across Tetris, and he buys the arcade and video game rights in Japan, before realizing that he has been absolutely screwed over. The person he was buying the rights from didn't have the rights to actually sell them. So now he has to go and find the person responsible for making the game, which is a guy called Alexei Pajitnov. I think that pronunciation is right. And he has to go to the USSR. It's the early 80s. It's at the starting to cracks in the armor of the USSR. The armor is
back in the US, back in the USSR.
That's enough of the Beatles. Thank you, Paul McCartney. And he has to negotiate the rights to this game for not just the video game and not just the arcade, but also the handheld rights, because he's been shown by Nintendo of America the handheld rights of the handheld console. They're just about to release the Game Boy, and it becomes this titanic...
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Becomes this titanic struggle between him, the Soviets, and a different video game company that's trying to snake him. So, Johnny, what did you think of Tetris?
I enjoyed it. How would I describe it? It's quite unique, but also very safe at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's quite an interesting story. It's told in a fairly dynamic way, although it's shot in a very Marv Studios way. Although it's not actually directed by, what's his name? It's gone on my head.
Matthew Vaughn.
Matthew Vaughn. Yeah, it's not actually directed
John
by Matthew
S.
Vaughn.
Baird.
But it is produced by Matthew Vaughn. It looks very Matthew Vaughn-esque. Bad lighting. Taron Egerton's excellent. There's some really good other performances in there as well. I'm sure Callum will talk to you later about Roger Allen.
Yes, I will.
And he plays the other video games company that's trying to snake him is Mirasoft, which is owned by Robert Maxwell and his idiot son Kevin. And Roger Allen plays Kevin. Doesn't play Kevin. He plays
Robert
Maxwell, hamming the place up, which is great fun. He even though it broke my rule of people not wearing fat suits, I will allow it this time. He was quite good fun in that regard. It's funny, fast paced romp that tells the story very well. It doesn't do anything excellently, but it does everything well, and a few things a level above well. And for that, it's just really enjoyable. If you just want, again, it's a bit of a Sunday afternoon film. If you want some fun Sunday afternoon film, educates a bit as well. I think it's worth a watch.
It's interesting you should use that phrase, "I'll let it slide this time," for the fat suit, because that's pretty much what I was feeling the whole movie, because I was trying to wonder, because there's a lot of similarities between this and Argo. They take a historical text and completely Hollywoodize it with car chases and rushes to the airport and all these kind of various things. And I kept thinking, why does it not bother me here? But it did bother me in Argo. And I think that
because Argo takes itself seriously and this doesn't.
The answer is tone. It's absolutely tone. Whereas this is a cartoon. Argo's trying to take itself very seriously, and a lot of other of these films that take historical facts and twist them to make Hollywood films, that wants to be very serious. It wants to be taken very seriously. It wants to win awards. This is a romp. This is a cartoon about a chancer, a childlike chancer who's trying to pull one over on the adults. And Johnny will know that one of my favorite TV shows is a TV show called Psych. And I'm midway through a rewatch of Psych at the moment. And I watched it between a sandwich of Psych episodes. And tonally, the two are kind of exactly the same, about a big kid who's trying to screw over the mean old adults who are all hamming it up and all shouting their dialogue, and all the Russians are very Russian, you cannot have the game, all that kind of stuff. And Roger Allen, who is hamming it up, is very much in, no, boy, you will negotiate with me. And everybody is playing it to 11.
Get to the jet and go to Russia.
Yeah, exactly. And just to talk a little bit about Roger Allen, I don't want to kind of derail this, but I was so happy to see him play another villain, because I know how badly he wanted it. But I won't go into that one story that I know about Roger Allen again, because fans of the show will know it. But yeah, so because it plays it like a cartoon, it's exactly the right tone to play it. And I thought the first half an hour was excellent. It just kept skipping along. There was no dead words. It lost a little bit of its pace after about the half an hour mark. It was still very entertaining after that point. But once he went to Russia, I felt that it got a bit slack. Not too much, but a little bit, and the pace wasn't nearly quite so fun and fast.
It was probably 10 minutes too long, I reckon.
Yeah.
Which isn't too bad in the modern film world.
And even with the kind of fact that I really didn't mind all the Hollywood convolutions, I did think by the end they piled up just a little bit too high. We could have done without the car chase, you know? And there were a couple of times where I found myself thinking, okay, I get it, but calm down. You're at an 11. I need you at a 9. But otherwise, it's very fun. It has a fantastic lead performance from this very childlike, very enthusiastic performance by Taron Egerton. That man can do no wrong. He can play any tone. I haven't seen the TV show Blackbird yet, also on Apple TV+, but I've heard he's excellent in that. And I've heard he's been having a very good kind of couple of years. So I'm really happy about it. So really anything about Tetris is that it's fun. It knows exactly where to play it. Knows exactly where to play its stories. It knows it's cliched. It knows it's kind of dumb. And, you know, any little bit of smarts that are in there, you know, like, oh, the Soviet Union, it's crumbling. It doesn't really care. It's just, you know, that's almost like a prop. We have to do the smart bits now. But yeah, no, it's everything about it is really fun, really zippy.
I also, I'm intrigued to know how much of the stuff with Robert Maxwell is true as well, because the way they kind of like, for anyone who doesn't know, so Robert Maxwell used to own a massive media conglomerate in the UK. He was kind of almost like the left-wing Rupert Murdoch. Mm-hmm. Famously owned the Mirror, was his biggest kind of asset, which used to be the Sun in the UK is the right-wing Death Star. And the Mirror's the left wing equivalent. But he's had a lot of kind of links to, some would argue, communism, and also had quite a lot of links to Israel. In another way, some people say he was a secret agent. How much of that's true, I don't know. But he was a very successful businessman for a lot of years, and then and then all of a sudden, some of his businesses started not doing so well, and banks decided they didn't want to lend him any more money. So he started taking money from the company pension fund. And when that all kind of came out, the company started to collapse. And the storyline on that, this film pins on the fact that he's desperately trying to get some money, and he sees lots of money in Tetris. But I don't know how true that is.
I would imagine not much of it, but it doesn't matter, again, because we just want
it's silly, isn't it? It's a silly film.
A hissable
for
villain.
Fun people. Yeah.
And John S. Baird, who is the filmmaker, he directed Stan and Ollie, which similarly, you know, both films take liberties with their history in order to tell a story that's sort of fun, entertaining, and tells a kernel of truth.
Yeah.
And I think this guy knows about the tone he's striking with his last few films. He knows where to draw that line. And I think that's important, to know how far up against the line to go, and know that if you play the tone just right, people will forgive you.
And in fairness to it, it's very clear from the first frame. It says Tetris, and then it comes a whole black screen and goes, based on a true story. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say this is a true story.
And with it, stuff like level 1, level 2. It knows that it's doing some things.
When they have the car chase scenes, like all these little blocks appear on the cars to make them look like Tetris cars and things.
I have to say that was one of my slight grievances with the film, is that so you get these interludes, because of course they couldn't afford to film. It's quite a globe hopping movie. They go to Seattle, Las Vegas, Japan,
probably all Vancouver.
No, it's all Glasgow, which is
is it? Okay,
which is the British Vancouver. You know,
or some would say the British Soviet Russia.
Yeah,
from a visual point of view.
Exactly.
Glasgow,
so Glasgow and Liverpool are the countries you go to, the cities you go to in the UK if you want it to be somewhere else. But
because they're all big old stone buildings,
exactly.
Aren't they? But either that or 60s kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Brutalist, monstrosity.
So in order to kind of paint over those cracks, they'll have these interludes, these transitions that are done in video game-esque graphics, and sometimes they're completely animated, and they're really good. And sometimes when they actually can have a traditional establishing shots, they just paint over in this overlay. They show you the building with pixels over the top of it, and then they fizzle out, and you see the real building. I wish they were just stuck to one or the other. I don't know why. It's a minor thing.
I kind of thought that through the film, though. I kind of thought that they had lots of that kind of stuff. They were like, oh, we've forgotten about it for 20 minutes. We can afford to film this scene, and then they were like, oh, we're bringing it back now. It's useful. And I kind of think what they'd be better doing is try to go, right, we need to have one of these shots every 3 minutes, or we need to have like a door turns pixelated when someone slams it, or something, have just to have it more through the film, not just when it's blatantly obvious they're trying to do it because they haven't got the budget to do the thing that they'd like to do.
And one thing that is nice is that most of the Russian characters are played by Russian actors. Most of the Japanese characters are played by Japanese actors, and it's a small thing, but like if you're watching
it's
this,
quite a big thing, really, because a lot of historically, going back 10, 20, 30 years, that hasn't always happened.
And quite. And if you're a Russian person watching this, it would be appreciated to not hear someone doing a bad Russian accent, and doing someone doing a bad Japanese accent. In terms of inclusivity for audiences from all over the world, because most studios just think about Britain and America. They don't care about the rest of the world. So who cares if the accent's wrong? It's nice to have that someone doing a little bit of homework, just in order to kind of keep everybody sweet.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. But no, other than that, I think I agree with you on things like the car chases and stuff. They were a bit. When I said that this film is a film that's kind of not like anything else, but also plays it very safe. They're very safe in that they have a car chase. Then they have a scene of the guy rushing through the airport, and you know that they're going to get on the plane. You know that they're going to get through, but they cut it in such a way that it's almost like watching a reality TV show where they cut it to try and make it look like they're seconds apart when that's not possible. Like they'd have been caught if they were seconds apart.
Well, exactly. It's the large places. They can't hide them like that.
No, I agree. I think overall it's fun, it's worth watching, but not perfect.
Yeah, it's fun, zippy. Yeah, you're going to have a good time watching it. And I think that's the thing. It's fun. Tonally, it's fun. It knows how to play that. And that's a big saving grace for it.
Absolutely. Right. Wow. I think that probably takes us to the end of Tetris and gives us time for a little advertisement break. And we are back from that advertisement. Don't you dare say anything about buying for $1.
I'll buy that for $1.
No. Right. You lose your microphone for a bit.
You're such a bully.
And yet, you don't learn.
Well, so we should stand up to bullies.
I knew you were going to say that. And when it's for your own good, you shouldn't. Anyway.
I think this is battered wife syndrome.
Wow, I'm doing it for the podcast, Callum.
I'm sure you are, yeah. I'm sure that's exactly why you're doing it. Mm-hmm.
There's a reason that, Stanley Kubrick had to make Shelley Duvall's hair fall out.
He could have just hired a better actor.
Wow.
But that's
a bit harsh on Shelley.
Well, someone that he didn't need to, yell at in order to get that performance, certainly.
How's David O. Russell ever supposed to get a good performance out of an actor if he doesn't make them want to headbutt him?
I mean, yeah. How can he get great performances out of Oscar-nominated and Oscar-winning actors? It beggars belief.
I know. What a hard life, David O. Russell.
I know.
Anyway. On to the second movie, which is The Social Network. The Social Network is a movie about the founding of MySpace.
Hey.
And about MySpace Tom.
I'd love to see that movie.
I feel like it's coming. If they're doing a BlackBerry one this year, I feel like there's a MySpace one
I think
coming.
the MySpace movie would be a nice guy set up a company and then he sold it. The end.
And then Justin Timberlake bought it and nothing happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway. Rewind.
Speaking of Justin Timberlake.
Wow. The Social Network is about the founding of Facebook and particularly centers on the story of Mark Zuckerberg, Eduardo Saron, and the Winklevoss twins. I can't remember their first names. Who all laid claim to the founding of Facebook in some way or another. Obviously, Mark Zuckerberg being the most famous and leading light. The film starts off with them at college when they, well, I'll leave it up to you all to decide who you think founded Facebook, but when they all had their reasonings for thinking they founded Facebook. And then kind of continues on as Facebook grows, and then on to the courthouse as they all duke it out in this Aaron Sorkin talky-walkie script. What did you think, Callum?
Well, of course, this is, a near masterpiece. It's probably one of the best movies of the early 2010s, if not the entire decade. And it's also the blueprint movie. Like, there wouldn't be a Tetris, there wouldn't be a BlackBerry, there wouldn't be any of these films without this film. This is the film that sort of made... Because I remember when the trailer came out, people were joking about this film, like the founding of Facebook, the movie. Yeah, jog on. And even after that really great trailer came out with the cover of Creep by Radiohead, there was make you happy. Exactly. There were still people going, Facebook movie. Who? No one wants to see that. And then it came out. So very special. I wish I was special. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
'Cause I'm a creep.
You'll have to get someone else to co-host this with.
I'm a loser.
Okay.
What am I doing?
I guess this is revenge. Okay, so it's the blueprint movie. There wouldn't be this... Oh, my God! This upcoming BlackBerry film and all those films. But what this film is it does better than all the... Oh, don't. So what this film does better than all of its predecessors is that it has such a tight command on the turns of events, the characters, what they're doing here, there, and everywhere, because it's such a very knotty and complicated with all the various players in all their various places. But of course, this is an Aaron Sorkin script. But that doesn't necessarily mean a great film. Like, if anyone saw The Trial of the Chicago 7, that he can indulge in sentiment in a way that's utterly cheesy and very 90s. So he's not immune to it. So I think he needs a good collaborator. He's a screenwriter who needs a director that sort of gets him. Like Diablo Cody and Jason Reitman have a special thing that works only sort of when they're together and never apart. I think that David Fincher's steely, controlled filmmaking is exactly kind of what the doctor ordered for this dialogue. Because I remember there was a story that came out about the film where it was running too long. The script was something like 170 pages. And they said, okay, well, just talk fast. And it makes for something, it's always clear. It's never bamboo-zling. You never kind of find yourself lost, even though people are talking, especially the Jesse Eisenberg, talking a mile a minute, but you're never lost because everybody is so focused, and that's what David Fincher's direction has. It's focus. We were talking about it a little bit with the Boston Strangler, where that was sort of an imitation, and what it was lacking was sort of the why. Why do that shot in that focused way, that stylized, controlled way. Here is the why. It's because it's about tone, and it's about the consistency in tone, when suddenly he'll take a step out and show you something that's quite of a bit of an outburst, like when Andrew Garfield as Eduardo towards the end, after he's been screwed over and the Facebook rights have been taken away, when he smashes the laptop and says, "What about now? You plugged in now?" And David Fincher's really clever about finding moments to punctuate that steeliness, that control, the rigidness. He knows exactly when to play it, when to not. And Aaron Sorkin is the guy to do it with him. So Johnny, what did you think? I think I remember you being a huge fan of this.
Yeah, I would actually say it's probably in my top 5 movies of all time.
Wow.
I really adore it, from the opening bars of Ball and a Biscuit by the White Stripes to the closing bars of If I Were a Rich Man by the Beatles. Was it, or Rich Man? Anyway,
Baby You're a Rich Man. Yeah.
Baby You're a Rich Man. That's the name. I just really love every second of it. I think it's near perfect again. It's the only scene I can think I still like it, but I think maybe it doesn't feel tonally right for the rest of the film. Is the yacht race and not the yacht, the whatever they're called, the rowing race in the middle. But yeah, it's kind of weird tilt shift photography, but it still works. It works. It's interesting. But other than that, I think all the acting's perfect. I think I love Aaron Sorkin, Cards on the Table, and David Fincher is probably my favourite working director. So yeah, it was always going to go well for me, I think. But no, I visually love it. It was also, I think, the first film that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did the soundtrack to. It's a soundtrack that's in. I listen to quite a lot of soundtrack albums, and it's one it's on constant repeat for me. Yeah, I think the script marries up perfectly with the filming style, with the acting style. I think every single movement of the camera is done so purposefully and so you know exactly what the characters are thinking. So you know, it's you know, it has that kind of leveled approach of, of you really understanding what every person does in it. I think it's a travesty it didn't win the Oscar for Best Picture in 2011. Personally. I think it was
the King's Speech.
No, the King's Speech. Fucking hell, what a pile of shit.
I know.
Compared to this.
So annoyed about that still.
Yeah, like, what a pile of shit. Don't get me wrong, the King's Speech is a watchable movie. I know you probably don't class it as a watchable movie.
I hate it.
It is a watchable movie and it's fine, but it's not the fucking Social Network, which is, like, as you say, it's a template. Every film about technology, which there's a lot of now because of the world, every film... every TV series about technology visually looks like the Social Network, steals the Social Network's soundtrack. You know, they all tried to chase the scripting of the Social Network. Again, it's a massive shame that the two of them were going to do the Steve Jobs movie, and then, although I don't really like the structure of the script, I think it's one of Aaron Sorkin's poorest. But yeah, it's a shame they didn't do that, because I think that would have looked much better if it had been done by David Fincher. Yeah, I don't have much negative about it. It's got, and pretty much everyone in it was a B-lister at the time as well, or a C-list actor. There wasn't.
Yeah, there were B-lister, a C-lister.
Justin Timberlake, but Justin Timberlake wasn't known for acting.
He was an A-lister in another field, certainly. Yeah, there were B-listers, C-listers, or up-and-comers. You know, they were all people who would emerge soon after the fact.
And because of this movie, a lot of them. It's just a masterpiece. I've probably seen it 10 times. Every time I watch it, I just love it.
When I rewatched it, because when I first watched it, it felt so young and youthful, and because, you know, it was made in 2010, we would have been 20. This is pretty much indicative of the 2010s. Like, you know, it's sort of, you know, it is sort of that model film when you think about what were young people doing and talking like in 2010. That's how it looked, and I wondered if it had aged at all, and if it, because, you know, that's a problem with films about youth, is that they often starts to look old-fashioned quite quickly, because when trends change, and it doesn't, just because there's always going to be stories about young men who are ambitious fucking each other over, and that's what this focuses in, rather than specific language being used or specific slang being used, or even the fact that, you know, Facebook is kind of the place now where you find your racist aunt. It's not where the hip young people are. But this story is going to be the story of TikTok. You know, I know that's in the courts right now for various shenanigans. It's going to be the story. It is the story of Twitter behind the scenes. It's the story about all these things. They're going to have their rise. They're going to have their peak. They're going to have their fall, and then something else where the young people will take it over. So it doesn't matter if this is about Facebook and people were wearing those 2010 hoodies and those fuck you flip-flops, as Eduardo says. It doesn't matter if fashions change. This is always going to be relevant to whatever generation of social network, or not even social network, whatever young startup is out there causing trouble. Another thing David Fincher does very well, not just in this film, but you know, in most of his films, is the one scene cameo scene stealer. And in this film, it's Rooney Mara. And, you know, Rooney Mara, again, is one of those young actors who would go on to have a huge career because of this.
In David Fincher movies as well.
And also casting his
her sister as well in House of Cards.
Yes, Kate Mara. Yeah, but he does that really well. He, like I said, the thing about David Fincher, he's so controlled, but then he'll throw in a zig or a zag, and it really throws you off, and it makes you not be able to predict it. And one of the things that how he does that is by casting people like Rashida Jones, Rooney Mara, who don't have huge roles, but they have significant roles, and you remember them. He does these things that punctuate. Even this casting of Justin Timberlake in 2010 was probably that, even though his part is not small. He's the third lead, I'd say. He's still someone who, like, you don't expect Justin Timberlake. You don't expect the Spanish Inquisition, but certainly not Justin Timberlake.
I didn't take Justin Timberlake at all seriously as an actor until I saw this movie.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh, the boy can act.
Exactly. And he knows how to throw in something like that he knows people will be wrong-footed by. And it's that wrong footing that really keeps your attention. It grabs you. And it's actually true about the pace and the editing as well, and the fact that he goes between not just one court battle but various to tell a jigsaw story. So you never quite feel safe because you're never quite sure who's telling the story at that point and whether they're a reliable narrator or not. And he's good at doing that. He knows how to keep you second guessing throughout the whole thing, and that's something that's masterful about his pacing and his timing, his editing.
And it's why I think it's obviously a few good men's up there as well, but it's also why I think it's probably Aaron Sorkin's best script, because again, Aaron Sorkin's always very good at telling stories and can tell layered stories where there's 2 or 3 timelines going on at once that connect, but not to this level normally. This like really cuts around and really withholds bits of information for an important character to say it in a deposition 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour later in the movie for you to go, oh, fuck, let's change my opinion.
Needs a director who knows how to control him, because otherwise you get a solid, really good, often film, but not a masterpiece like Molly's Game, like The Trial of the Chicago 7, both of which are really solid, dependable, good movies, but they're just missing that special sauce.
Mm-hmm. And we all know if David Fincher can do something, it's control.
Yes,
David Fincher
absolutely.
loves control.
I mean, I imagine they must have gone through hundreds of drafts where David Fincher was probably yelling at him, "Do it right, Aaron," like he does to his actors.
I'll just do it my fucking self.
50 takes, 100 takes. Eat those burgers, Andrew. Not Andrew Garfield. Sorry, no, the cannibal.
Armie Hammer.
Armie Hammer, that's right.
Or smash that laptop, Eduardo.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the photo of how many laptops that were smashed? So David Fincher's known for doing millions of takes. And there is just, like, there's a photo of like 60 smashed laptops for that scene.
Well, that's my favorite scene in the movie. So it certainly worked. It was a good reason for it.
Fuck you and your... my Prada's in the cleaners with my fuck you flip-flops.
My hoodie, my fuck you flip-flops.
You pretentious douchebag. Yeah. What a line.
I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back
for all of it.
He is so good. I love Jesse Eisenberg.
I like our slightly different takes on the words there.
Yeah,
as well.
I think slightly misremembered lines from one or the other. As much as I like Jesse Eisenberg, completely deserved his Oscar nomination. Mm-hmm. Best Supporting Actor should have gone to, not just been nominated, but should have gone to Andrew Garfield. He is stupendous in this film. It's so good.
And for Rooney Mara, when she's absolutely chewing out Mark as well, she should have got Best Supporting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actress.
In a way, their jobs are harder because Jesse Eisenberg, he can do that. You know, that's a role he can play. Pretentious intellectual who's also really steely and unemotional. That's
and
Jesse
kind
Eisenberg.
of looks a little bit like Mark Zuckerberg.
It does.
Although I think, Jesse Eisenberg could be seen as the slightly handsomer version of Mark Zuckerberg, definitely.
I think that's fair.
But anyway, moving on. But no, I think, I really, there's very little to fault in this movie. And if you haven't seen it, where the fuck have you been? Go and watch it now on Netflix. If you
must be living under a rock.
Again. Anyway, I think that probably brings us to the end of our review.
To close, a nice wrap up.
So, Callum, what did you think of Tetris?
Tetris is very fun. I wish that the preceding hour and a half after the first hour, after the first half hour, was as tight as that first half hour, where he's kind of laying out his plan on how he's going to go to Russia and buy this game. Because that first half an hour was like, oh, this is so tight and fun. And then it slacks a bit. So if it was, that would have been better. But as it stands, good solid 7 out of 10. Nothing to fault. Great lead performance. Lots of fun. Reminds me of one of my favorite TV shows. So, 7 out of 10. Good solid stuff.
I think I probably agree. I think it's funny. I think it's, for the most part, well-paced, minus a little sag in the middle. I think Taron's great and very enjoyable. I think there's some great hammy acting around it. I kind of like what they do visually with it, if it forgets it at points. So, yeah, I think I'll give it a 7 as well.
Nice.
And for The Social Network.
Well, it's one of the best movies of the 2010s. I'm not sure I'm quite saying that it's the best top 10 movies like Johnny is, but it's certainly...
It's in my top 5 movies of all time. I'm not saying it's the 5 best, but my top 5 movies of all time.
Yeah, well, quite. I mean, it's certainly one of the best of the decade. So, yeah, it's an easy 10. Everything about it works. It's both creators working on their best instincts. And it seems like they are the kind of right screenwriter, so the right talent for the other one. So an Aaron Sorkin screenplay as controlled by David Fincher is always going to be the kind of tightest that they both can be. And it brings out the best in both of them. So, yeah, easy 10 there.
And, yeah, I think so too. I think it brought a lot of new creative talent to the table as well. It was nice to see Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross doing the soundtrack too. Cinematography is amazing. I don't know who did the cinematography for this film actually, but I've got from my head it feels like the first time that Fincher went that full kind of digital look. It was certainly more kind of digital looking than Ben Button, which was I think the previous movie, which did win Oscars and shouldn't have won Oscars. This is if anyone wants reasons why, it's like Scorsese winning for The Departed. The Oscars are stupid, and they always give Oscars to the wrong movies. But anyway, it's so well acted. The script is great. I couldn't cut a minute out of it. I don't think. Maybe the minute with the boat race. Perfect. 10 out of 10.
I can tell you who the cinematographer is. It's Jeff Cronenweth. It's not a name I know.
What else have they done? Tell me.
Also done pretty much all of what's his face? Gone Girl, Fincher. Social Network, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Fight Club. Before that,
Fight Club.
Well, those are the ones that it puts to the front. A lot of music videos, a lot of music videos, and a few other films like Hitchcock in 2012, which is pretty good.
I like that film.
I can't remember much about the cinematography in that film. Oh, Down with Love. That's a very stylized movie. I like that.
It's a very stylized movie, yeah. Yeah, fair enough. No, I think, so yeah, we've agreed on both films pretty much this week. 7 out of 10 and a 10 out of 10. So go watch them both. But if you haven't seen Social Network, go watch it now.
And I think you'll like Tetris a lot. It's goofy, silly fun.
And it's a good time to get... We're not sponsored by Apple Plus, although if they're listening and they want to sponsor me, I'm quite happy to take Apple's money. They've taken enough of mine over the years, that's for sure.
Hey-o!
It's a good time to get Apple Plus as the new series of Ted Lasso is just starting, which if you haven't seen is great. There's a new series called Shrinking from the creators of Ted Lasso on there with Jason Segel and... what's his name? Mr. Grumpy.
Harrison Ford.
Which is really good, really enjoyable. Schmigadoon's second series, Schmigago, is coming out. So yeah, it's a good time to get a couple months of Apple Plus in there if you do what we tend to do and swap your streamers around to have some different things at different times of the year.
Absolutely. Yeah, it seems to be a good time to get it.
So yeah, no worries. Well, everyone, have a fantastic week. And I think that's bye from me.
And bye from me. Have a good one.
Laters.
Bye.